I want to talk, Steve, you touched on it a little bit. I know many people are familiar, at least at some level, whether you've seen a commercial or whether it's through merchandising or just general conversation with professional wrestling from what we see on television. But I want to talk a little bit about the independent wrestling federations and things like that, because I think that's something that's more homogenized and organically grown on a local level, where you're able to possibly to develop relationships with some of the wrestlers and things like that, be a little more up close and personal. Steve, I'll start with you because you're actually a wrestling promoter here in Chicago Heights, which is not far from where I'm at. You're about 15 minutes away. Can you talk about kind of what you've seen as an independent promoter in terms of fan engagement, character development, things like that?
I think independent wrestling is one of my favorite things in the world. So I'm a big sports guy, and I really think every sport has its perfect medium. Like, I think baseball is best on the radio. I think there's nothing better than baseball on the radio. I think football is best on television because you can see 100 different angles that you can't see live. I think hockey and pro wrestling are best live because there is something live about those two things that does not come through the TV screen. It doesn't come through your computer screen. And I think that's what I love about independent pro wrestling is if you're not a fan of wrestling and your friends are going to an independent show at a bar, at a bingo hall, at a high school, you know what? Yeah, I'll pay $20. Why not? I'll do this. And then people get converted. Like I was reconverted in 1998. The energy, the closeness, the just people suspending their disbelief and becoming part of the show. There's nothing like that. And if you were a non-fan who went to a WWE event, you might be sitting up in the 300s. It's a good show, but it's far away. You go to an indie event and you can hear one guy slap another guy. When there's a bump in the ring, you feel it shake. And the energy is real. And then you can talk to the guy after the show and say, hey, great job, great performance. I equate it to seeing an up-and-coming band at a local club. It's one thing to go see the Rolling Stones at Soldier Field. That's really cool. You're not going to meet Mick Jagger after the show. But if you see an up-and-coming band at a local club, not only did it feel more intimate, but you could actually have a personal interaction with the performer. Yes. So I think independent wrestling is the bee's knees, and it's my jam. It's why I put my love and passion into it.
Yes, I'm coming to your next show. The answer is yes.
Yes.
I love it. See, that's the type of feel and energy that me as a person who's familiar with the sport, but not necessarily a hardcore fan, that would draw me to it, that experience, that level of fan engagement, that level of intimacy. While you're still there, you can go to, like you said, a larger event, but it's similar to being at a concert at a 200-300 level or the mezzanine area, whereas on a smaller circuit, there's that intimacy. And like you said, you can have a conversation with someone and you never know, this might be the person that, elevates you. Say, hey, I saw that person when they were just starting out.
I real quick story, and sorry to dominate, but I went to a local Chicago indie several times in 2000, 2001, 2002. And the first local wrestler that I really liked at the Midlothian Rec Center or Tinley Park High School was this unknown, scuzzy looking kid from Lockport named CM Punk. And the first t-shirt I ever bought is a CM Punk t-shirt from the LWF, the Lunatic Wrestling Federation in the South Suburbs of Chicago. Yeah. And so when CM Punk became CM Punk, it meant so much to me, not just because a cool character is becoming a big deal, but I shook that guy's hand at the Midlothian Rec Center when he was making $20 for the show. Yeah. So that is really a cool part of it.
You know what? Sold. I'm back on the wrestling, but I only want to go to independent shows, because I can relate to the small band stories. Because again, that's what it's about. It's that wow factor. It's what drives you. It just doesn't feel like it's branded, packaged, and commercialized and just put out there for consumption. So, man, thanks for sharing, Steve. Tom, you've got a similar story, but you're a wrestling fan. You've gone to major wrestling events. You've also gone to independent events. Kind of compare and contrast the two, and which do you prefer, and how do they differ?
I think Steve actually put it perfectly, comparing it to a concert in a huge arena to, a small or a lesser known band in a bar. It's two totally different worlds. I mean, yeah, they're both pro wrestling, but that's where similarities end and I'm going to use Warrior as an example because I've been to, they're the ones that I've been to the most shows for. I've gotten to interact with so many wrestlers and, we're not talking just, green rookies that nobody's ever heard of. I mean, Steve gets some big name talent at Warrior, but you, like you said, you get the opportunity to interact with them. You get to sit a hell of a lot closer than you do at like Allstate Arena or the United Center or something like that. There's no such thing as a bad seat at an indie event unless maybe you're a little kid that gets sat behind a tall guy. But other than that, and you're pretty much like right on top of the action. I mean, the last Warrior show, I was actually doing a live broadcast for the podcast because Steve's nice enough to let me do live play-by-play. And but I mean, their women's champion got slammed into my table. Where else is that going to happen?
I do have a question. Does that come out of your security deposit or Steve's security deposit?
Nothing got broken, thank God. But
Okay.
Everyone's just crossing their fingers. Nothing breaks.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was a sturdy plastic table, so it wasn't going anywhere. But like I said, that's not going to happen at the Allstate Arena. If I'm at Allstate, I'm lucky if I can see them like this big from my seat up in the 200 section.
Yeah.
So that really is the biggest difference. Is you feel and you are a lot closer to the action, a lot closer to the wrestlers, and there is that opportunity to actually interact with them and most of them, well, in my case, all of them, any wrestlers that I've interacted with, I've never had a bad interaction with the wrestler. They welcome it. They're very welcoming. All of them, that I've ever dealt with are very, very nice people. They think nothing to shake your hand, sign an autograph, take a picture. And you don't get those kind of opportunities at like a WWE event. It just doesn't happen.
Gotcha.
So if I had to pick, like if it was going on the same day or something, somebody says, hey, I got tickets to this WWE house show, or I got tickets to Warrior Wrestling, I'm going to Warrior. Just because it's a better, to me, it's a more enjoyable time. Going to a WWE show is kind of like going to a movie. You're going to sit there, you're going to watch, you're going to go home. Going to an independent show, sorry, hit the mic. Going to an independent show, you're still going to sit there and watch, but you're also going to get the chance to interact. It's a much more intimate crowd. There's more chance to interact with your fellow fans. And, it's just a much better time.
Gotcha. Very well stated. Demetrius, how about you?
Oh, very much the same. Going to an indie show, seeing some guy who was probably on working the docks at Amazon somewhere on Friday, doing a show on Saturday, either just because he needs a few extra bucks or he just really loves it. That's great. You get a lot of kids there at indie shows, a lot of family, great family atmosphere. And then for someone like me, I'm a heckler. That's my contribution to the show.
You? No.
True story. I know. It's kind of hard to believe. You got to bring a championship belt to a budget meeting. Would want to be part of an indie show, but when you're yelling from the cheap seats at Allstate, all you're doing is just annoying the people around you, which I'm okay with. But when you're yelling from third row at an MLW show or something like that, your voice is being heard. And I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. And then afterwards, like everybody said, afterwards you can go up to their table, shake their hand, tell them what a great match. It really is incredible. I think Tom and Steve said they both trained to be wrestlers. I never trained to be a wrestler, but I have gotten in a ring or two. All you got to do is take one bump. And the fact that these men and women do this for little to no pay, but they're doing it to entertain me and everybody else in attendance, that really heightens my experiences to know that these guys and these gals, a lot of whom are doing it for little to no money, are just trying to entertain me. They dig it. They're in there because they have fun, but they want to see me and everybody else in attendance be entertained. Baseball players and professional athletes like that make hundreds of millions of dollars, and God bless them. But this guy, this gal who's doing this job for a hot dog and a handshake, they really get my appreciation. Indie shows are the best.
Well, it's interesting that you touched on that because the consistent theme is that while the professional, the quote unquote professional, I should say, the more mainstream, let me put it that way, the more mainstream wrestling shows have a larger audience. The independent show has a better experience for fans overall. in terms of level of engagement, intimacy, the ability to interact, things like that.